Hey crafty friends, it's Joy here for Honeybee Stamps, and today I've created this really pretty Christmas card using blues, and we're going to do some distressing. I'm starting with a black piece of cardstock, and I'm ink blending with Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide ink. I'm just laying this color down on the background. It does not have to be perfect because we're going to come in with some Distress Spritz. I am starting with Uncharted Mariner. And I'm not trying to do a complete coverage. I still wanted to be able to feel like this has some green to the background. I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, but I do really love it. And so I will say a couple things happened with this background. And I'm going to dry my layers in between using my heat tool. Now I am using peeled paint Distress Spritz. I'm doing just a little bit of this. I don't want to overdo this color, but I like having a little bit of that in the background because it's a little bit of a brighter green. Then I will use Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide Spray. I'm going to bring that in here in just a little bit. I am adding a little bit more of that Uncharted Mariner. So of course Distress Spritz has mica in it, and so it's going to be really shimmery and shiny, and it's so pretty. Using the Distress Oxide ink and spray has that kind of chalky look. And so when all of this was mixed together, when you didn't see this background in the light, this is the Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide Spray. I'm splattering it, and I will, I think I'm just splattering here. I may spray it in just a little bit. But something that happened that I wasn't expecting, when you don't see the light shining on all the shimmery parts, it almost looks like this really beautiful suede kind of teal because we've got these blues and greens mixing together. So that was more of that Distress Oxide Spray in Rustic Wilderness. And I'm not done yet. I am going to work on this a little bit more, but I think at first I wasn't loving it, but I really love it now. A little more of that Distress Oxide in Rustic Wilderness around the edges with my little foam tool here. And then I'm going to go back in and just kind of go heavy in some of these areas with the Uncharted Mariner Distress Spritz. And it turned out really, really pretty. Now in my Misty, I have a piece of white cardstock. I am inking up the image using fossilized amber. I'm leaving my stamp in the Misty. This is from the Sending Christmas Joy, and I'm just going to use this one stamp set. It does have a coordinating die. I'm leaving my stamp in the Misty because I'm going to come back and do some gold embossing. I'm not doing it now because it can ruin the tips of your alcohol ink markers, the embossing powder. So I'm going to color. I've got these really pretty blues here. You can see the caps. These are the Olo markers. And then for the greens, I'm going to be using Copic markers. I will speed this up here in just a minute, but I'm starting with my darkest color, then my medium, and then I will come in with my light. I think these flowers are absolutely stunning. I wanted this to have a very different kind of Christmas feel with blues and greens, and so that is the look that I'm going for here. So I'm going to add now my light color. I'm blending into that medium color, which the medium color had blended into the darker color. So now I'm just getting this nice soft blue look for my flowers. And I think this turned out really, really pretty. I like this color of blues that I have from my Olo markers. Let me go back in with that darker one and then the medium one again. I'm just going to kind of define some of those areas a little bit more that maybe got a little blended out a little too much. And then I'm doing that light blue in the center there. So I'm going to speed this up. I'm not going to show all the flowers because it's exactly the same, but I will show you the leaves here in just a little bit. And I'm just kind of doing flicking motions, especially with that darkest color, just to give us a little bit of texture, or it looks like there's texture to the flowers. And then I'm using my Copic markers for the green here, coloring all of these petals and the stems. I think this turned out really, really pretty, and I'm doing a very light green in the centers of the flowers. And then I'm going to use the coordinating die for this. It cuts out this whole big group of flowers together, and there is some other flowers in this stamp set I think there's an open flower, there might be another closed flower, and some other leaves. So you can have some other choices of how you want this laid out. I'm putting this, before I die cut it, I'm going to put it back into my MISTI. I prepped it with a anti-static powder tool. I'm inking it up with some clear embossing ink. I'm going to sprinkle on my gold embossing powder. So again, I left my stamp in when I stamped it the first time. That way I could just easily stamp right over it. Once I put my paper back in there, I'm heating it with my heat tool until it's melted and shiny. Look at how pretty that is. And then here is that coordinating die that I'm going to use. I'm going to tape that in place with some low tack tape, and then I can run that through my die cut machine. In my MISTI, I have that inked up background with the, it kind of looks like the postage edge stamp set from Sending Christmas Joy. I'm going to lightly powder up the edges. I didn't get it very good, but I didn't want to cover up all the shiny bits with my anti-static powder tool. So I was just trying to get it where I thought my inking would be, but I did miss some areas. And so I just came in with a paintbrush and brushed the excess embossing powder off before I heated that with my heat tool. So no big deal if I had a little bits of pieces just on the background. I'm not overly concerned by that. Then I'm going to heat that up. I'm going to use the small die cut that die cuts inside of the inside rectangle that we heat emboss. So that will still stay on that inside frame. I am keeping both pieces. I'm going to be using both pieces. Then I'm stamping the sentiments from the Floral Noel. The sentiment's going to say, "Sending you joy." I will ink this up with clear embossing ink and use that same gold embossing powder. I want this to be cohesive, and I love gold. So to me, having the sentiment being gold would look really, really pretty. I'm going to sprinkle that on and then heat that with my heat tool just like I did the other image. I'm using the Joy sentiment. The Joy die for the sentiment. There's not a die for the smaller one. So I lined that up at the bottom of my paper so I can just use my paper trimmer once I'm done die cutting this, and I can trim out the other part of my sentiment. But look at how cute that is. I love that it's, you know, vertical, I guess, instead of horizontal for the sentiment. So let's trim out this little one. And now I'm going to add some foam adhesive to the back of our frame now, because we created a frame after we die cut out that centerpiece. I'm using 2mm foam adhesive, just adding that around. This is A2 size, so I will adhere this to a white A2 size card base. And then we can inlay that centerpiece that we die cut out. You could have left this one solid piece, but I wanted to have dimension. I wanted the background to actually be pushed back. So I'm going to just add a little bit of tape runner here and then pop this in. And now we have some dimension. So I need some foam adhesive behind my flowers and my two sentiments. So I'm gonna place that down, let this overlap that frame just a little bit. The Joy sentiment has some foam adhesive as well, and then the Sending You has some foam adhesive. I am going to let the Sending You sentiment overlap the flower just a little bit, so I needed to add a smaller piece of foam adhesive behind my sentiment. So I'm going to put that in place. Then I can make sure everything is adhered down, and let's take a look at that. Look at that shiny background. And then when you can't see the shiny, it just is this beautiful mix of blues and greens. So it's like this deep teal color, which I think is stunning. I love how this turned out. I love that this is for Christmas. It's just a different way and different color combinations to create a Christmas card. I hope you guys enjoyed this project. I hope that you feel inspired, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.